Hello, everyone, and welcome to another exciting edition of Every Voice Matters, where your voice matters. I welcome to another exciting edition of this program. It's a program where we try to enlighten youths of Africa to become better agents and better actors of a better democracy in Africa. So I welcome you once again to another episode of this exciting topic that we've been talking about for some time now. And that topic is building a democracy that works for everyone in Africa. It's the same topic we've been looking at different angles. And today we have another special guest with us in the house today. I'm really so excited because we have our learned friend in the house, someone who is learned enough to share his ideas, his opinions with us on this same topic of building a democracy that works for Africa. So today we are looking at the role of the judiciary. And I want to welcome with us in this studio today, Mr. Ede Samuel Chukwuemeka. Welcome to the show today. You're welcome. Welcome.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Mary Alabi, I am so happy to be on the program today. Thank you very much.
You're welcome. I'm so excited to have you on the program today. Like we said, it's a topic that is very deep, very relatable, and it affects everyone in Africa. And that's the same topic we've been looking at, different angles from, one Saturday to the other. We've been having different episodes of it. And today, the part of it that we want to look at is the role of the judiciary, building a democracy that works for everyone in Africa, the role of the judiciary. And that's why we've been, we've been happy and so excited to have someone like you in our studio today that is learned and is able to shed light on this topic. And I know it's going to be exciting. So you're welcome again to the show. Before we go on, I would like to say to our ladies and gentlemen, our viewers out there, you can reach us, you can reach our program on our social media platforms. We are Fact Corner. Once you search for Fact Corner on YouTube, you'll be able to get our videos. You'll be able to listen to all our episodes on our social media platforms. And we're also on Facebook. So on YouTube, on Facebook, Fact Corner, you'll be able to get our videos. And if you also want to send us a mail, you can send it to us at info@factcorner.org. info@factcorner.org. That's O-R-G. So you can send us your messages, your comments, your feedbacks, even if you want to be a guest on the program, because we say it's a program where every voice matters. So you can send us a message on info@factcorner.org. We'll read your messages and we're able to talk to you. So back to our topic today. Mr. Samuel, it's so good to have you here today to discuss and dissect this topic today. But quickly, before I begin to discuss and chat with you on this topic, I have a little introduction, a little survey that has been done where we can start our conversation from. And I'm going to just read it to you now. It says, according to the survey conducted by Transparency International between September 2016 to September 2018, with over 47,000 respondents across 35 countries in Africa, more than 1 in 3 Africans believe that there is endemic corruption in politics in their country. That's more than 1 in 3. The most concerned citizens are found in places like Democratic Republic of Congo, that's the DRC, where about 79% think that all or most parliamentarians are corrupt. And we also have people, areas like Gabon, with over 71% in the same survey, saying that their parliamentarians are corrupt, that their politicians are corrupt. Now, we have some countries where the integrity rate is a bit higher. Places like, the Gambia, where we have only 15%, saying that their politicians are corrupt. So from this example, from this survey, we're asking the question, why is African democracy characterized and threatened by electoral abuse, ethnic colorations, corruption, poor management of natural resources, and the collected effects of poverty, apathy, and economic insecurity? And how will Africans overcome all these threats today? So, like I said earlier, the angle we're looking at today is the role of the judiciary in building a democracy that works for everyone in Africa. So, Mr. Samuel, as a learned, practitioner that you are, we want to ask you today to help us shed more light on the role of the judiciary as a key arm of democracy in Africa. So the first question I would like to ask you today is, in your own opinion and in your own experience, what is the role or the significance of the judiciary in building a democracy? What is the role?
Okay. Thank you very much for that question, Mrs. The thing is, to go before I dive into the question, I think it is important that I first of all explain what democracy is shortly. Okay. So, democracy, according to Abraham Lincoln, is the government of the people, by the people, and for the people. However, to put it in a more understandable form, I would say democracy is a system of government where people rule either directly or through a representative that is elected by them. That is, I think, a shorter form of democracy. Now, because in a modern society like this, it is probably impossible to practice the direct form of democracy. You find out that most times countries practice the indirect form of democracy. That is, electing somebody to represent them in power. Now, for democracy to stand, there are some pillars that are very, very much important, and those pillars are the executive, the legislature, the executive, and the judiciary, as provided in, I think, chapter 4, 5, and 6 of the 1999 Constitution. Now, you will find out that at all times, the judiciary is always very important, because as they say, the judiciary is the last hope of the common man. The reason why the judiciary is so important is because it has the power to settle disputes, not just between citizens, but between governments. For instance, if there is a problem that has to do with a state government, one state government and another state government, the judiciary has the rights to come into that matter. Or if there is a problem between the federal government and the state government, maybe in a revenue allocation, something that has to do with revenue allocation, the judiciary can also come into the matter and then settle the problem. That is why the judiciary is so important. Now, it is so important that even in military regimes, the judiciary is not usually tempered with. The military can decide to fuse both the executive arm and the legislative arm, making laws and doing whatever they want to do. But they do not temper with the judiciary. Now, this does not mean they do not, of course, somehow they're trying to influence the judgment of the judiciary. But to some extent, they still give the judiciary that respect. Now, the whole point is for democracy to actually be applicable, the judiciary is so important. And that function of not just interpreting laws, but settling disputes and coming into matters when people feel that their rights have been breached upon is so important in a democracy. And that is why the judiciary is so important. Like, the role of the judiciary is so important. I hope this answers your question.
Yes, thank you so much, in fact, for that breakdown and introduction. Like you rightly say, one of the three pillars of a strong democracy are the judiciary is really, really very important, and it's something that should not be messed with or should not be toyed with if a country is serious about building a strong democracy, like you rightly put it down for us. Wow, thank you so much for that introduction. Now, like you've rightly mentioned, looking at what the Constitution says, the provisions of the law, we have things like separation of powers, the rule of law, checks and balances, which the judiciary and probably the legislative arm of government does those checks and balances as a form of duty to the executive arm of government to ensure that there's balance, there's fairness, there's equity in everything that is done for the people of such a country. Now, it's this second question looks like I'm putting you on the spot, but I just want to know from your own angle and your experience, would you say that the Nigerian judiciary has failed in its duty to build a strong democracy in Africa or in Nigeria? Would you say that the judiciary has failed?
Well, on the question as to whether the judiciary has failed, I wouldn't say. I will first of all say, it is not just the power of the judiciary to bring about democracy. When I mentioned the pillars of democracy, I mentioned three. Of course, the judiciary on its own cannot just bring about democracy, or probably it will be very difficult for the judiciary on its own to do that. And that is why we have principles like separation of power and rule of law that tries to separate these arms of government so that there is no infusion on one person's function or the other. So that is that. Now, on the question as to whether the judiciary has failed, I personally would say that no, the judiciary has not really failed, or partially. That is why I think the right word is partially. Now, the truth is, if you want to look at any problem at all, it is usually important to look at the root cause of that particular problem. People usually say that the judiciary is bad, they usually give wrong judgments, and this and that. But we have forgotten that there is actually most of the time there are people who actually persuade the judiciary to give those wrong judgments. Not that it is on their own to give those judgments. For instance, let me just go straight to the point. The point is, even if the judiciary is functional, the fact that there are problems or there are ways in which other arms of government can tamper with their functions actually makes them most of the time not functional. For instance, when you talk about autonomy of the judiciary, for instance, of course, in Nigeria currently, the judiciary is actually on strike. Hope you're aware of that. Now, and they're aware of that. What they are clamoring for is actually independence. Because currently, if a governor builds a house for a judicial officer, it will be as if the governor is doing favor to that judicial officer. And the judiciary is even tired of all of this. You go to courts and you find out that the state of our courts, sometimes you wonder whether you can even get justice from that kind of place. You see, so there are a lot of things influencing the functions of the performance of the judicial function. Not just that judiciary is not strong enough, but some provisions of the constitutions, or not just some provisions, practically, like the executive arm sometimes can influence judicial functions, and most of the times this make them not to perform their functions the way they are supposed to. You understand? So that is actually the cause of the malfunctioning of the judiciary. So I can't actually say of course the judiciary has failed. Actually, if you want to tackle go from the root cause. You understand?
Yes. Wow. Thank you so much for that, because I was really, really looking out to the answer to that question, because as a professional and a practitioner in that field, we were just, discussing, and my partner and I were like, okay, would such a person agree to the fact that the judiciary has failed? And like you rightly said, the independence, of such an arm, an important arm of government, of democracy, if that independence is being toyed with, if that independence is being, is being tampered with, it's like tampering with the functions, the functionality of that arm, which will affect the way the democracy of such a country, turns out. And like you rightly said, it is not the only arm of government. They are only trying to do their own duties. They need the collaboration of the other arms of government to ensure that the whole democracy works and everything is really, that was a very good point. And I think it has even answered the question about independence that many are saying that is the judiciary truly independent? Like you rightly said, the strike that is ongoing at the moment shows that there's still some level of dependence, and they're trying to fight it. They're trying to get their judgment out and say.
Elaborate on that. Now, you see, I think the Constitution in Section 81 sub 3, and then I think Section 81 sub 3 for the federal government, and then Section 121 sub 3 as well, provides that revenue for the judiciary should go directly to the judiciary. This is what the Constitution provides. However, some other powers of the governor has made it even difficult for that particular section of the Constitution to be practicable. And that is why the judiciary, even now, it is not like we do not have, theoretically, we can say that the judiciary is actually independent because of the provisions of the Constitution. And then recently, I think President Muhammad Buhari actually passed an executive order, I think Order 10, that tries to force that implementation of that particular section. But even at that, you still find out that most governors they still don't want to do this thing. You get? So this is the problem now. And that is why courts in different states of the country they've closed down, saying if the executive don't want to do anything about this, then there is no point going to court. If we are not independent, then we can't even perform our function. You understand? This is actually the problem of autonomy. The judiciary is not actually independent in this country, and that is the problem we are facing.
Wow, that's really key. That's really key, like you said. Mr. Samuel, I would really like to ask you this question that people have also been talking about. The constitution that is in use in Nigeria at the moment, that's the 1999 constitution. Is the problem about is the problem we are having with the constitution? Is the problem the fact that it is old and it's something that should have been reviewed and changed at this time, or is it the problem of not even being able to bring all the provisions in that constitution to manifestation, to making it work for the people of the country? Is it an old constitution, or it's just something that we're not adhering to?
Okay, I think the constitution on its own is somehow there is a problem with it, because most of the time you find out that, especially when it comes to demarcation of functions of the arms of government, you find out that the constitution makes a provision now, and then in another section of the constitution, you find out that it is giving another arm of the government power to actually go against that particular section. You get? Now, in a democracy, it is supposed to be that the judiciary is more powerful than any arm of government. That is how it is supposed to be. Because this arm of government is the only arm of government that we as citizens can run to. Because if you have a problem now, you can't start writing to the governor to help you solve it. Or even if you can write, actually, it may not even get to them. But when you have a matter, even if you're suing the federal government has to be represented in that matter. And if at the end of the matter you are actually right, the court will give judgment on your behalf. So the constitution of Nigeria made it in such a way that the executive is even stronger than any other arm of government. And that is why you see the governor, the president was able to remove the CJN and many other things that has happened in the country that are supposed to be unconstitutional, but somehow the constitution is actually implying that power, giving it to the executive somehow. So that is, I think the constitution is actually not good enough, and most of the time it gives more power to the executive instead of to the judiciary. You understand?
Yeah. Thank you so much for that. And a close question to that has always come to the mind of young people, especially with events that have been happening again in this country. And, you know, we are trying to also say, okay, we want to build a democracy that works for everyone in Nigeria and for everyone in Africa. In your own opinion, Mr. Samuel, this issue of, you know, interpretation of, you know, the law, you know, or when people have matters and they take it to courts, maybe from the lower courts, the appeal courts, and then at the end of the day, some are still not satisfied, and they end up in the Supreme Court. But sometimes you find instances where it's not the same, you know, it's not the same things that they get out of these courts. They have different interpretations. So some are already concerned that when it comes to the Supreme Court of Nigeria, are we going to say also that they've also been tampered with? Or is it, can we say that they are really functioning the way they should be functioning? Or is there maybe an interference in the way our Supreme Court in Nigeria works, in your own opinion?
Okay, before I answer that question, I think it is important to note, first of all, that there is every possibility for the judiciary to make contradicting judgments, not even being influenced by anybody at all. There have been cases where things may not be too clear. Maybe a particular case might have to do with two principles, and following one principle, you might get a different judgment from the first principle. You understand? That is why when we talk about jurisdiction of courts, the Supreme Court has the power to overrule judgments of courts below it, like the Court of Appeal, the High Court, State High Court, overrule judgments from those courts, and also to overrule its own judgment. You understand? Now, this is the thing. It depends on the angle you're bringing the question. If you're bringing it from the angle that whether giving different decisions will should actually make people afraid, I don't think it is right, because sometimes things like that happen in the legal profession. There was this case, I think it's actually a case between a judge. I've forgotten the name of the case, sorry, I can't mention, but those people in Anambra should know a particular judge that made a publication at one point defending the character of another judge. And I think it is the chief judge of Anambra State at one time, I can't remember. But the whole point is, he made that statement, and when the thing got to court, the Supreme Court, the court was faced with two particular principles to follow. Now, at the end, they actually gave a wrong judgment for that particular that matter, and it was based on, usually it is based on who is actually handling this matter, who is the lawyer handling the matter. Is the lawyer smart enough to present to the court what they want to see? Because it is what you present to the court, and the court will decide. You can't go to a court and the court will be the one bringing up issues. It is the issue you bring to the court, what we look at and then decide. So there are a lot of things that can actually change make the Supreme Court give different decisions on a particular matter. And that is why, if at any point the judiciary finds out that they are wrong in a previous matter, the law allows them to overrule, or the doctrine of precedence, that is what it is called in law. The doctrine of precedence allow them to overrule their previous decision and then come to the right one. And so if the Supreme Court at any point gives the wrong decision, and of course the state high court, federal high court, the other courts below it must follow it. But if that particular matter again should come to the Supreme Court, and then it is presented well before the Supreme Court can now correct their mistake. You understand? So I hope that answers the question.
Yeah, that answers it. Wow. It's been a very interesting edition. But I really, really want you to say something to, this last question before we round off on the show today. because of the topic we're talking about, which is building a democracy that works for everyone in Africa. When it comes to election in Nigeria, we all know the way the story always goes. At the end of the day, maybe some people are not happy about the counting of the votes. At the end of the day, maybe some parties are not happy. They go to court, and at the end of the day, it just seems to look like the stronger party always wins. And when even issues are taken to court, you have different cases of electoral abuse, even with the governing body of the electoral, commission, such that people are now losing trust in the electoral system. What would you say, as a final advice from a legal practitioner like yourself? What would you say that Nigeria can do, or Nigerians can do, to ensure that our electoral system is really, really very law-abiding and very, what are the legal ways, the legal systems that can be put in place or reviewed to ensure that our elections are really, really trustworthy? And at the end of the day, like we say, it's the people that have the power to govern, and it's the people that are really, really governing at the end of the day.
Okay, well, I think the solution, a simple solution would just be for there to be a provision where that tries to decentralize the power of the executive. Now, like I said before, the executive has so much power that it can actually do anything it wants to do while in power. Like if the president or the governor is in power, he or she can do whatever he wants to do while he's in power in that particular state, almost anything. Now, take for instance the appointment of chairman of the electoral commission by the executive is actually not a right provision. Like the executive should not be allowed to appoint chairman of the or even members of the electoral commission at all, because if they are allowed to do that, then they can actually pick up somebody they know and they put the person there and then do whatever they want to do. You see, so there are lots of other things like powers that has been given to this executive arm. Like I said, if you look at the constitution, you find out that the constitution gives so much power to the executive. So if I believe in case of election that if the executive arm is decentralized in such a way that the executive does not have anything to do with the electoral, in fact, the electoral anything that has to do with election, appointment of staffs of in anything that has to do with election at all, the executive, in fact, no arm of the government should be connected with the electoral commission or whatever. You understand? Because if they do it that way, then the electoral body will be free to make decisions, or even to do the right thing when they are supposed to do, not being influenced by the executive or any arm of government. You understand? So I believe the electoral body is free to make their own decisions, not just to make their own decisions, but to do what they are supposed to do and try to stop the executive from influencing this arm of government, like when it has to do with appointing people they want into the electoral body. Those things are not right, and these are things that have been created, provided for in the constitution. You understand? And then even when it has to do with appointment and removal of what do they call them? Ministers. Those are some provisions of the constitution that, if you look at them critically, you find out that in one way or the other, they are trying to influence or put in corruption. One way or the other, I tell you the truth. One way or the other, they are trying to influence on the arms or the powers of other arms of government.
Well, thank you so much. Yeah, that answers. Thank you so much for an exciting. We really run out of time, but I really want you to talk in 30 seconds about you are the founder of Be Scholarly LLC. Yeah. That's a website that talks about legal articles, and I've been to the website. You have such great, exciting articles there. can you just talk briefly, just 30 seconds, about how you came about this and what has been the level of impact you've gained from this?
Okay. I started Be Scholarly in 2019, and my aim then was to educate people, and that is what I have been doing since that website was created. I have a lot of persons who are also working with me, and frankly speaking, I believe that as a youth, I have the power to influence. Somehow, I may not, of course, be able to do it now, but I know that with the little things I do and the information I'm able to pass to people, I have the power to educate people, to educate people about their rights, and then to even influence government decisions of the government to some extent. Okay, so that is what Be Scholarly is all about: educating people, enlightening people, letting people to know about the things they can do as citizens. Because if you look at our country today, I mean, there are a lot of people who don't know their rights. I mean, there are very little things that some people do today, and we just let those things go by. And as citizens, we don't even know. We are not even confident enough to go to court, because we also feel that the court system is also a failed one. And all of these things are not right. I mean, if we want to build a good Nigeria, it is not right. I think I was supposed to be in the program last week, but for some reasons, actually, I was working on an application I launched, I think, 2 days ago. It's called Be Legal. Now, this app, I built it myself as also a web engineer. I built it so as to help lawyers in legal researching and other aspects of the legal profession. Now, my aim particularly is to make sure that when it comes to dispensation of justice, the judiciary is actually faster. Because if you look at some people, they will tell you, if I go to court, then my case is not going to be held till 10 years. After, and actually what are happening. Yes. But if the technology comes into the judiciary, I believe things are going to be pretty much faster than how they are currently. Because I know countries like UK, the US, that practice the same common law system with us. You find out that their system is not like ours. I mean, there is this particular case they call Mojiku. I think that case lasted for about 10 years. I mean, even some parties of the case died before judgment was given eventually. And these things are not supposed to be so. So that is why I built Be Legal. It's currently on the Play Store. Just if you search Be Legal, you find it there. And this is actually for lawyers, particularly for now. But I hope that with time, I'm also going to build technologies that will try to educate people as well. I mean, mobile apps that will try to solve people's problem instead of allowing them to go to court and do other things.
Wow, thank you so much, Mr. Samuel. It's been fun on today's program, and I must really confess, I really learned a lot today. It's been very exciting having your contributions on the topic today, building a democracy that works for everyone in Africa, the role of the judiciary. Thank you so much for coming on this program, and we hope that whenever we call upon you again, you'll be very happy and available to join us on the program. So,
dissemination of information. You can call me anytime you want to. If I'm available, I'll make myself available.
All right, then thank you so much. And to our viewers, thank you for being part of this show with us. Next week is another exciting edition of our program, Every Voice Matters, where your voice matters. So you can search our videos online on YouTube, Facebook, on Fact Corner, and also go to our email. You can send an email to us or through info@factcorner.org. So till we meet again next week on another exciting angle of this program, have a wonderful weekend, everyone. Bye.